Hi friends, good morning. Today we are going to discuss lesson number 2 in economics, globalization and trade. What is globalization? It is the integration of a country with the world economy. Basically, globalization signifies a process of internationalization plus liberalization. Globalization, the meaning, the process by which business or other organizations develop the international influence. And trade. You know very well what is trade. Trade is nothing but an exchange of goods and services from one country to the another country, or exchanging of exports and imports from one country to the another country. So here in this chapter we are going to discuss about the history of the globalization. Point number 1, this is globalization, history of globalization. The term of the globalization was introduced by Professor Theodore Levitt. The historical background of globalization can be discussed on 3 stages. Stage 1, archaic globalization. Stage 2, proto-globalization, that is the next stage of archaic globalization. Stage 3, modern globalization. Look at the map for the globalization. Silk and spice route. From where to where? For the entire world. Land route in red color, sea route in blue color it denotes. Point number 1, archaic globalization. An early form of globalized economics and culture known as archaic globalization, which existed during the Hellenistic age, that is during the period of Sumerian and Indus Valley civilization in the 3rd millennium BC. An early form of globalization in the trade link between the Roman Empire, Parthian Empire and Han dynasty made the commercial links between these powers inspired the development of the Silk Roads. The Islamic Golden Age was also an important early stage of globalization. The advent of the Mongol Empire to the commercial centers of the Middle East and China, they greatly facilitated the travel along the Silk Road. These pre-modern phase of global exchange are sometimes known as archaic globalization. That is very ancient civilization. Look at this. This is a map for your silk and spice routes. The next point of view is proto-globalization. The next phase is known as proto-globalization. It was characterized by the rise of maritime European empires in the 16th and 17th centuries. First, the Portuguese and Spanish empires and Dutch and the British empires. In the 17th century, globalization became private business phenomenon like British East India Company, which founded in the year 1680, which described as first multinational company, and the first Dutch East India Company, which founded in 1602, were established. The next thing is the modern globalization. In the 19th century, they witnessed the advent of globalization approaching its modern form. There are 2 main points. One is the global trade in his country centuries, as well as the capital investment and the economy, and another one is the global trade in the 20th century, which shows a higher share of trade in merchant production, a growth of the trade in service, and the rise of production and trade by multinational firms. So this is the silk route and spice route area, from which country to another country they have a level. Now we are going to talk trade and traders in South India historical perspective. Southern India. Trade guilds were formed by merchants in order to organize and expand their trading activities. Trade guilds became channels through which Indian culture was exported to other lands. Look at this Kalinga trade route. It's a South Indian and to the eastern border. Kalinga trade route map. Early traders, what they did. In the year 1053 AD, the Kalinga traders, that is now modern Orissa, which brought red colored stone decorative objects for trade and also cotton textile to Southeast Asia at an early date. European traders in South India. This was due to the trading activities of the various European companies which came to India during this period. The discovery of a new old sea route from Europe to India via Cape of Good Hope by Vasco da Gama had far-reaching the repercussion of the civilized world. This is that Cape of Good Hope, that is from the African side. Okay, the southern tip, from there to they reached to the Calicut of the Indian border. Now, look at this, the Portuguese sailors, Vasco da Gama. This is British company, UK, United Kingdom, Queen Elizabeth. Now first let me go to the Vasco da Gama, the Portuguese sailor. The Portuguese, under the leadership of Vasco da Gama, landed at Calicut on the 17th May 1498. Please try to underline that. 17th May 1498. Profits of goods brought by Vasco da Gama to Portugal were to 60 times cost of the entire expedition to India. Okay, the arrival of Pedro Alvarez Cabral in India in 1500 AD and the second trip of Vasco da Gama in 1502, it led to the establishment of trading station at Calicut, Cochin and Kannanur. Cochin was the early capital of Portuguese in India. The Dutch in South India, Dutch East India Company. Dutch undertook several voyages from 1596 and formed the Dutch East India Company. In 1605, Admiral van der Hagen, who established the Dutch factory at Masulipatinam and Petopoli, that is in Nizamapattinam, Devanamapattinam. In 1610, upon the negotiating with the king of Chandragiri, who found another factory at Pulicat. Pulicat was the headquarters of the Dutch in India. Nagapattinam on the Tanjore coast acquired from the Portuguese in 1659. The next point of view, the British, Queen Elizabeth period. On 31st December 1600, Queen Elizabeth, who granted charter to the East India Company on the southeastern coast. The English established at Masulipatinam in 1611 and near Pulicat in 1626. The Sultan of Golconda granted the English the Golden Firemen in 1632, by which they were allowed to trade freely in their kingdom ports. Now the Danes. The Danes formed an East India Company and arrived in India in 1616. That is, the Danes people only we call as the Danish settlements, were established at Trangubar in Tamil Nadu in 1620, which was the headquarters of Danes in India. They failed to strengthen themselves in India, and in 1845 they were forced to sell all their Indian settlements to the British. The next point of view is the French. The first French factory in India was established in 1668 by obtaining permission from the Sultan of Golconda. In 1693, the Dutch captured Pondicherry but was handed back to the French. In 1701, Pondicherry was the headquarters of the French peoples. This is the Dutch in South India. The next point of view, we are going to discuss about globalization in India. First, we have discussed what is globalization, right? So, in India, the period after 1980-81 was marked by severe balance of payment difficulties, mainly due to hike in oil price and Gulf War in 1990-91 and hostilities in West Asia. Now, globalization in India, India is facing lots of problems now too. Hike in oil price, even in gold and everywhere, right? When the new government took over in the June 1991, India had unprecedented balance of payment crisis. With the downgrading of India's credit rating by some international agencies, there was a heavy flight of capital out of India. Since India lost its credit worthiness in the international market, the government mortgaged 40 tons of gold to the Bank of England. Under these circumstances, the government for 1991-92, they presented its budget in July 1991 with a series of policy changes which underlined the globalization, liberalization, and privatization. This has come to be called as India's new economic policy. So these policies were strengthened when India signed the Dunkle Draft in 1994. Reforms which made to adapt the globalization. The new economic policy in India. What are the things? Abolition of industrial licensing except for a few industries. Reduction in the number of industries reserved for public sector. Point number 3. Fixation of a realistic exchange rate of rupee to exchange exports of Indian goods. Point number 4. Foreign private sector by making rupee convertible on trade, on current account, and by reducing import duties. Any 4 points you can write in the new economic policy. Foreign exchanges regulations were suitably amended. Point number 6. The statutory liquidity ratio SLR was reduced to increase lending by RBI, Reserve Bank of India. Now the main point, multinational corporation MNC. Multinational corporation is a corporate organization which owns or controls production of goods or services in at least one country other than its home country. Home means mother country than that. Otherwise called as a multinational corporations or transnational corporation or multinational enterprises. What is multinational corporation? It is a corporate organization which owns or controls the production of goods and services in at least one country other than its mother country. Okay, their own country. Evolution of the MNC. The East India Company, which came to India as a trading company and then its net throughout the country to become politically dominant. These multinational firsts start their activities in extractive industries or to control the raw materials in the host countries during 1920s and then slowly entered. Most of the MNCs at present belong to the 4 major exporting countries like USA, UK, France, Germany. However, the largest is American only. 11 of the 15 largest multinationals are American. 11 of the multinational companies belongs to American. Look at this MNC company. The growth of MNCs in India. Multinational Corporation Company. A common form of MNC participation in Indian industry is through entering into cooperation with Indian industrialists. Trends of liberalization in the 1980s gave a substantial spur to the foreign collaboration. This would be clear from the fact that of the total 12,760 foreign collaboration agreements in 40 years between 1948 and 1988. As a result of liberalized foreign investment policy announced in July to August 1991, there has a further spurt of foreign collaboration and increased flow of foreign direct investment. Multinational company. What is the reason for the growth of MNC? Due to the expansion of market territory, marketing superiorities, financial superiorities, technological superiorities, and product innovations. What are the advantages of MNC? Producing the same quality of goods at lower cost and without transaction cost. MNC reduce prices and increase the purchasing power of the consumers worldwide. MNC is able to take advantage of tech variations, spurring job growth in the local economies. Look at the disadvantages. They are a way of the corporations to develop a monopoly for certain products. They are also a detrimental effect on the environment. The introduction of MNCs to a host country's economy may also lead to the downfall of smaller and local business. MNC breach ethical standards, accusing them of evading ethical laws and leveraging their business agenda with capital. The 10 largest multinational companies in India: Sony Corporation, HP, Hewlett Packard, Tata Group, Microsoft Corporation, IBM, Nettle, Procter and Gamble, Citigroup, Pepsi Company, the Coca-Cola Company. These are the top 10 largest multinational companies in India during 2018. Look at this. Indian multinational companies. Hero MotoCorp, headquarters is New Delhi. Type of industry, automobile industry. The countries of operating, Colombia, Bangladesh and Africa. Bajaj, Pune, headquarter. Type of industry is automobile. Which are the countries they are operating? United Arab Emirates, UAE and Bangladesh. TVS, it is in Chennai. Automobile industries. To which are the countries they are operating? Brazil, Chile, Colombia and Mexico, Peru. State Bank of India, Mumbai is the headquarters. Banking, Australia, Bangladesh and Belgium, countries were authorized. Bharati Airtel, it is in New Delhi, is the headquarters. Communication is the type of industry. Which are the countries operating? South Asia and Africa. Finally, we are coming to Fair Trade Practices and World Trade Organization. Fair trade. It is a way of doing business that ultimately aims to keep small farmers an active part of the world marketplace and aims to empower the consumer to make purchases that support their values. Fair trade is a set of business practices that are designed to advance many economic, social and environmental goals, including raising and stabilizing the incomes of small-scale farmers, farm workers and artisans, more equitably distributing the economic gains, opportunities and risks associated with the production and sale of these goods, increasing the organizational and commercial capacities of producer groups, promoting the labor rights and the right workers to organize, promoting safe and sustainable farming methods and working conditions. Fair trade is about better prices, decent the working conditions and fair terms of trade for the farmers and workers. So they are increasing the value of the people, those are working in the trade. Principles of fair trade organizations. Creating opportunities for economically disadvantaged producers, transparency and accountability, fair trading practices and payment of a fair price, ensuring no child labor and forced labor. So commitment to non-discrimination, gender equity and freedom association, respect for the environment. So fair trade, food products such as coffee, tea, cocoa, honey and bananas. Non-food commodities includes crafts, textiles and flowers. So they are doing the trade on these food crops and non-food crops. GATT, G-A-T-T, General Agreement of Trade and Tariffs. It was signed by 23 countries in 1947. India was one of the founder members of the GATT. In the 7th round, 1999 countries participated. In the English round of 1986, Uruguay round, 117 countries participated. The Director General of GATT, Arthur Dunkel, who came up with the draft final act known as the Dunked Draft, and on April 15, 1994, the final act was ultimately approved and signed. His primary purpose was to increase international trade by reducing various tariffs, quotas and subsidies while maintaining the meaningful regulations. This is GATT, GATT Uruguay Roundtable, that is General Agreement of Trade and Tariffs. World Trade Organization, WTO. The signing of the final act of the Uruguay round by member nations of GATT in April 1994 paved the way for setting up of the WTO, World Trade Organization. An agreement to this effect was signed by 104 members. The WTO agreement came into force from January 1, 1995. World Trade Organization. Headquarter is Geneva, Switzerland. The purpose of opening this regulation and the international trade. The members of World Trade Organization, Director General, 4 Deputy Director General, and other 600 official staff from around 80 member countries. Look at this, G7 countries, group of 7. Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and United Kingdom, United States. G8 countries, summits we have just gone through in the previous chapter about this G7 countries, group of 7. Objectives of the WTO, World Trade Organization: to set and enforce the rules for international trade, to provide a forum for negotiating and monitoring the further trade liberalization, to resolve the trade disputes, no fighting between any other countries. To resolve the trade disputes, this WTO has been established. Introduction: the sustainable development and environment can go together. To ensure that developing countries secure a better share of growth in world trade. To resolve the trade disputes again. To increase the transparency of decision making process. Introduction: sustainable development to the development and environment can go together. To ensure full employment and broad increase in effective demand. These are the objectives of the WTO. Now look at the trade related aspects and intellectual property rights. That is, trade related aspects of intellectual property rights, TRIPS. Intellectual property right may be defined as information with a commercial value under TRIPS, that is, trade related of intellectual property rights. Patent shall be available for any invention, whether product or process, in all fields of industrial technologies. TRIPS agreement covers 7 areas of intellectual property right. That is, it's given like copyrights, trade market, trade secrets, industrial designs, geographical application, integrated circuits, and patents. Impact of the challenges of globalization. What is the drawback of the challenges of globalization? Positive impact and negative impacts are there. We'll go on with the first, positive impact. A better economy introduces rapid development of the capital market. Standard of living has increased. Globalization rapidly increased better trade so that more people are employed. Introduce new technologies and new scientific research patterns. Globalization increasing the GDP of a country, gross domestic product of a country. It helps to increase in free flow of goods and also to increase foreign direct investment. These are the positive impact. It developed the globalization GDP level of the country. Now look at the negative impact. Too much of flow of capital amongst the countries, which introduce unfair and immoral distributors of income. Another fear is losing the national integrity. Because of too much exchange of trade, independent the domestic policies are lost. Always we are exporting the goods. So we are not supposed to keep our own country. Because of that, we are losing our impact. So rapid growth of the economy has required a major infrastructure and resource extraction. This increase negative ecological and social costs. Rapid increases in exploitation of natural resources to earn the foreign exchange. Environmental standards and regulations have been relaxed. Rapid increase is fast. That is just slowly in exploitation of natural resources to earn the foreign exchange. Okay. Now the challenges of the globalization. Previously we have learned about the impact of the challenges of globalization. So impact we have seen negative and the positive impacts. Now we are talking about the challenges. The benefits of globalization extend to all countries. That will not happen automatically. The fear that globalization leads to instability in the developing world. The industrial world that increased global competition will lead in race to the bottom in wages, labor right, and employment practice. It leads to global imbalance. Globalization has resulted with the embarrassment. It has led to an increase in activities such as child labor and slavery. People started consuming more junk food. This caused the degradation of the health and spread of disease. It has led to the environmental degradation. So these are the challenges they face in the globalization level. We'll recap what we have studied the entire lesson. Globalization is the integration of a country with the world economy. There are three stages of the globalization. One is the archaic one, proto, and another one is modern globalization. What is LPG? Liberalization, privatization, and globalization. Multinational company is a corporate organization which owns or control the production of goods and services in at least one country to the other than its home country. Multinational corporation, otherwise called transnational company and multinational enterprises. GATT. It was signed by 23 countries in 1947. India was one of the founder members of the GATT. So finally, we have covered the entire globalization and the trade level of the Indian economy. Okay, thank you dears. Please go through the lesson carefully. Go through the clip again and again. Then to try to understand that, grasp it and prepare your answers. Thank you dears.